Welcome to Scars to Stars, where conversations and personal stories let us know we are not alone. In this show, you will meet authors and speakers from our books and events as they share vulnerable personal stories to spread hope and inspire you through adversities in your own life. The world is a difficult place. You will find like-minded people here with kind hearts and supportive souls. I am your host, Dina Brown Mitchell. I am a suicide survivor and the founder of the Realize Foundation. I am so glad you are here. Let's dig into this meaningful conversation. Hi, everybody. It's Dina at the Realize Foundation. I'm here with our guest today, Hollywood Capone, and I want him to tell you where he is in the world and what he does.
Well, first of all, let me say thanks for having me on. This is Hollywood Capone. Out in the world, I wear a lot of different hats. I'm a writer, poet, car guy, family guy, husband, father, all of the above. Not all on, the same occasion sometimes, but, we do what we can. But, the reason I came on the show today is I wanted to talk a little bit about my book, but also, share any experiences that I have that could be helpful and relative to anybody that's listening.
Awesome. Thank you for being here.
My
I
pleasure.
would love for you to tell us about your book.
Well, let's start at the beginning. I'll show you. That's the book. It's called The Ashes by Hollywood Capone, me. I wrote it starting in probably 2020. Took me a little bit to write it, and I also did an audiobook version of it too, which took an ungodly amount of time because I came up with the wild idea that I was going to read it myself, and that turned into its own slog. But the actual writing of the book was related to the death of my lifelong friend, and it was a sudden death. And there's been experiences like that in my past before, but I think the reason that this affected me so deeply was because he was one of those people that you have in your life that you just never expect to be gone. There's those constants, those pillars in your life that you just always expect to be there. And I had known him for so long over so many different phases of my life that when he was gone, it was, and truth be told, it was a big piece of me went with him. And the reason I say that is because he knew me from all those phases of my life, from, very young childhood through, teenage years, through high school, through after high school. And, my life wasn't, picture perfect. It wasn't some storybook life. There was a lot of terrible things that were going on there. And he was close by while those things were going on. And at the end, when he was gone, there was really nobody else that knew that part of my life, that knew that version of me. And that's why I say that a part of me went with him, because, there's nobody else left on earth that I could talk about those things with that were there and relative to them happening. And that was a big grow up moment for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you want to tell us more about when that happened and what helped you get through that?
Well, writing the book helped me get through it. That was a big thing, but that kind of happened on its own. When it happened, it was a surreal set of circumstances. It was, he and I would text every day and just goofy stuff. And he was so annoying sometimes. Sometimes he'd text me at 4:00 in the morning and my phone would be going off and my wife would be like, yeah, who's that? Like, well, who do you think it is? And, always political things. And God bless him. Sometimes it would be aggravating to me at 4:00 in the morning, my phone going off, but I can't tell you what I would give to have my phone go off at 4:00 in the morning and have it be him sending me some garbage, But when it happened, I got a text. I'd been trying to reach him the day before and he didn't text me back. And I didn't really think too much of it because his family owned a few houses in in the town that he grew up in. And periodically, like every 10 years or so, he would facilitate getting these houses painted and other things that needed to be done. And he was involved in that whole sequence while this was going on. So I just thought that he was tied up and had stuff going on. And the following day, his mom texted me from his phone and said, Alan's in the hospital. And I said, oh shit, what's going on here? And then I went to see him, and it was a terrible sight. He had a big dent in the side of his head from where he'd fallen off the roof. And, just looking at him immediately, it was chilling because it didn't look like anything good was going to come of it. And then, they kept him going for some days after that, mechanically, it wasn't on his own. And eventually they decided to pull the plug, and that became its own thing. They pulled the plug on him, and he left us. And, the rest of it was kind of like there was no real finality to it. It's not like they buried him. It's not like there was a place that he had his final resting place. He just disappeared. There was no real memorial service. And that was a big part of it for me too, because that whole disappearance aspect of it, when I was still having trouble dealing with it, that's really what started writing the book in motion. I sat in front of the computer one day, and I just wanted to write a paragraph just to kind of see visually what it was that I was thinking out loud. And I wrote that one paragraph, and then it turned into another paragraph, and then it turned into another paragraph, and then it turned into a chapter, and then it turned into 2 chapters. And next thing I know, I was coming home from work and just working for a couple hours and doing my thing, and it turned into the story that it turned into. And that is what helped me get through that without, losing my mind.
Yeah. Wow. I think, we publish books called Scars to Stars, and it has people come and say, I want to write my story to help other people. Because the whole purpose of writing stories is for other people to have a glimpse into someone else's life, or to, share something that's meaningful. And I think that when people write in our books, they absolutely help other people and change people's lives, but they don't realize how much it changes their life. And I think that writing is just such a healing therapy for us to get things out of our brain onto paper. And one of our authors, he was a retired fire chief, and I was doing his interview like this one day, and he said, Dina, when you write it down, it's just words. It doesn't hurt anymore. And I was like, that makes so much sense, because, it's not that we don't still hurt or care, but it is a healing process. And it sounds like it was for you too.
Oh yeah. And, to this day, it chokes me up every once in a while. And because there was a core group of friends, obviously, that came from the same town and the same genre and the same age and all that. And, every once in a while we cross paths, or, there's an email that comes through, or something funny gets sent on a phone. Not like we have a tight relationship, because everybody's kind of gone their own way, but every once in a while that comes back, and it chokes me up. Or, somebody asks me about it, and it takes me right back there. And it's just one of those deals. It's human emotion. And there's, I'm fortunate to have that, but because I think that if you did not have that human emotion, then you'd be cold and barren, and you'd be, without feeling. And I'd much rather have the pain of the occasional, stabbing wounds in the heart than not have them at all, because I think the alternative is it's less beneficial.
Agreed. So I'm wondering what came out when you released the book. What was that like, and what maybe came out of that as people were reading it?
Well, I think a lot of people were surprised by it, because, truth be told, I've spent most of my career in the car business, and I ducked out for a little bit. I opened a photography studio. So I was a photographer for about 12 years. And then when the pandemic hit, I went back into the car business. So it was never really something that anybody ever expected of me. But when it came out, there was how do I want to say this? There was, not applause or anything like that, but it was like, a lot of people gave me a thumbs up, like, hey, man, more power to you. And I mean, for me, I just wanted it to be over, be honest with you, because I've been writing it. And I mean, it didn't take me terribly long to write. I think I was in it for like 6 months. But I just wanted to get to the end of the story. And not that I would rush it or anything like that, because the story really had a life of its own. It was me just sitting in the computer and just doing my thing. And, oftentimes I wonder, well, where is this going? How is this going to resolve? And I wanted to see the resolution of it. And, it's my first effort. It's certainly no work of Hemingway, you know what I mean? But I think it's a pretty solid first effort, and I think it stands on its own. And I'm glad that it went the way that it went, and I like how it resolves. And actually, I'm writing my second right now, and I bring back a couple characters from the book in the second book, because the book isn't. I wrote it in fiction and nonfiction, and the nonfiction is a synopsis of what happened and how the timeline went down, and the nonfiction is this alternate fantasy world of the same thing happening, but in a different world that can more be explained by just fantasy and imagination, and the combination of those two worlds and the direction that it takes, that helped me make sense of it, because there's those two worlds at some point kind of commingle, and for me they make perfect sense.
Yeah, it is funny how in 2020 I lost my business and was starting this foundation, and I was processing a lot of things for myself, and I also had a whole lot of time on my hands like everyone else did in the world. And I remember people telling me in my life, like, you should journal, and I was like, I don't have time for that. And so in 2020 I started journaling, and I really started writing stuff about a lot of things I hadn't processed or thought about in a long time. And it really did help me get to a better place. It really did, like you said, get to the resolution of what all that meant and how to move forward and kind of put it in the past, And
Sure.
it was healing and therapeutic for sure.
Well, it's funny, because what was therapeutic about writing the book, I don't really even know how to describe it. It's not the type of thing that I don't think I would ever take on again. If and when next book, I would probably have somebody else do the audio version of it, because I recorded it first time thinking all these grandiose thoughts, like, oh, this is going to be awesome, this is going to be great, and it sounded like garbage right out of the gate. And I went through it and I did it a second time, and it was better, but not.
Hey, you're back.
Look at that, technical difficulties.
Awesome. So I'm going to go back and ask that last question, if I can remember what it was. I start talking about the audiobook. I think that's where I lost you.
Well, what I was saying about that, it was this terrible slog. It was something that was frustrating and intimidating, and once I got through with it, I was just glad to basically be done with it, only because it was just one of the hardest things I had ever done. To read with inflection, some people have a natural talent for that, and I don't. And writing the book was so fulfilling, but doing the audiobook version of it was.
I lost you again. I don't know. Oh, there you are.
I'm back. But anyway, I don't know how far you got with that, but I was saying the audiobook version of it was just a terribly difficult thing to do, and it was something I would never do again, just because of the difficulty of it and how it worked out. But writing is something I feel very comfortable with. But if I ever do an audiobook version of anything again, I think I'm going to sublet it out.
I hear you. I know. I have a book that I want to do an audio version of. And now that you're saying that, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I should not do that.
Nah.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, do yourself a favor and listen to your voice back a couple times. And
Mhm.
some people have a natural talent for it, you know, and some people don't. I, unfortunately, don't have a natural talent for it. So it is what it is.
Yeah. So you said you're going to write another one?
I'm pretty deep into it right now. I'm a couple hundred pages into it. It's all fiction, this one, though. But I brought back two of the main characters from the first book, which are Kid and the Cowboy. And then there's some other characters that are involved in there. There's a car in the first book, so I bring back the car. The car is its own kind of sub character, and they're a group of high school students that wind up saving the world. And I'm thrilled with the story. I'm having a great time with it. Just like anything, there's ups and downs with it, but pound for pound, it's been a great ride, and I'm looking forward to getting to the end of this one. But I'm not sure where the end goes, so I'm just along for the ride as well.
That's awesome. Sounds like it'll be a good series of, you know, I lost you again.
Well, Deanna, thanks again for having me on. I really appreciate it, and thanks for giving me a forum to tell my story, and thank you for sharing your story with me, because that really is something that touches me right here, and I couldn't be more grateful. And yeah, again, you know what I mean? It's the more people that we help by talking about our stories, I think that ultimately that's the best thing that we can do as people.
I agree with you. I think storytelling is the heart of humanity, in my opinion, because, you think back when, we didn't have cell phones and TVs, people were sitting around a fire telling stories, and, it's evolved into much more digital these days, but it's still the same meaning, I think, just so people know, they're not alone, and they're not the only one struggling with whatever they're dealing with.
It couldn't be more true than that. And, that kind of ties it all together. And, if you're hurting and you need to talk to somebody, the best advice is to reach out to somebody and say the words out loud, because once you say the words, sometimes everything seems to feel better after you say them out loud. And that's really, at least my 2 cents on it. I mean, who am I? Just a guy, but that's what I think sometimes.
Well, you're just a guy, but all of us are just a guy or just a girl. And we are all trying to get through this thing we call life, and we all have struggles, and we all need to support each other better.
Agreed.
That's what I think.
Well, thanks again, Deanna. Thank you so much. And again, I look forward to seeing it. And if it's okay with you, I'll promote it on, my social media, and hopefully, it'll reach somebody. And that's ultimately what the goal is.
Absolutely. And absolutely, you can promote it. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the conversation, and I hope that it gave you some tools in your toolkit about writing and overcoming adversity, because writing is very healing, as we've been talking about. And I think it's really important when you're in a place where you're struggling, or in a dark place with suicidal ideation, and how can we get that junk out of our head and know that we matter, and everybody matters. Everybody's life has a purpose to be here in this world, and we want you to stay. So I hope that everybody enjoyed this conversation, and I will talk to you soon.
I'm so happy you joined us for this conversation. My wish is that you found comfort and hope in your own unique situation. If you resonated with our message, please head over to therealizefoundation.org, where you can apply to write your own story in one of our books. You can also download our 60 ideas for self-care on the resources page. I can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, you are not alone, you are worthy, and you are enough.